They're distraught just as much as if this had been a family or a friend, family member or a friend. They're just distraught because we do communicate and they do communicate. Sometimes not in English or Spanish or French, but in a way there's a communication. Yeah. So please, I'd like to introduce our wonderful, Aminah, I am going to always stumble over your name. I told you because when Corky came in and said, oh, there's this new lady here and her name's Aminah. And I said, like the mountain, and she said, maybe I said that wrong. And so every time I start to say it, I get stuck up on the mountain. And so all you have to do is correct me, okay? And I'll appreciate it. Please welcome our pet psychic. We're going to have a lot longer to speak if you want to.
Don't do that.
No, will you be able to take questions after your talk?
If that's okay. Corky and I talked about that could be dangerous, but with this small an individual, that would be fine.
Put all your guns and knives away. Any dangerous things. There you are. The podium's yours.
And I don't know if I'll need the microphone, so if I kill...
So we can't record you for the video.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
And look, all the beads are mine.
Yes.
So again, my name is Aminah, and in college it was almonds and so if that works for you. As with all the speakers I have seen, I'm going to stick to notes because I've lived this and told these stories a million times, and the problem is you get off in this direction and that direction. We don't have that much time. So
we have until 2 o'clock when we have a wedding.
Oh, there you go. There you go. From a very young age, I could hear the animals. At first, I took it for not only a deep love of all living things, as well as being a fifth child, that no one wanted me underfoot. So I found friends elsewhere. You should have seen me picking up horny toads. If you don't know what a horny toad is, This is in the high desert. Really little thing, got horns back here. Yeah, I was picking them up all over the place. Until dinner time, when I figured I couldn't catch their dinner. So they had to go back before they got too hungry. And letting them go. Even the plants, flowers, insects, got lots of hearing my made-up stories and tales. We couldn't see, why couldn't others see how amazing things are around us? My happiest memories are out with the animals in nature. I feel like I can breathe, and a deep sense of peace comes over me with pure joy. Today, I am also the one everyone drops off their dying plants to. Still, these things I have spent a lifetime learning and sharing, not only with my children, but with others. Do animals speak?
Yes.
Absolutely. But how is that done? It's not like you and I talking, even right now. An animal is instinctual, logical, task-oriented, and imparts impressions. Just the facts as they know it, and sometimes nothing at all. Have you ever seen a tail twitch?
Yep.
An ear bend?
Yep.
How about the fur quiver?
Yep.
Ever gotten the long stare?
Yes.
Or maybe a quick glance? All of this is communicating. The key is to understand what it all means. For me, it has been a lifetime of study and fascination. My learning curve never stops, and the pure joy of the conversation keeps me engaged. Let me give you a few examples. When I was a young teenager, I was lucky enough to work in my first exotic animal rescue center. There were animals from all types of situations and came with many problems. I was helping with everything: cleaning, feeding, food prep, even animal care and exercising. Being the only female on site, I was given the task to walk the wolf.
Walk the wolf?
Yes. This male wolf hated men and was as tall as my waist. and that's his back, not his head. He had been beaten by a man and was very aggressive towards them. But me, he liked, or at least he did well. Our walks were teamwork. I found we came to an understanding of cooperation. He got to smell everything he wanted to walk around, and I got to keep my arms. Honestly, for years, I never understood why he seemed to understand that I respected him and wanted only the best for our time together. But our conversation with exotic animals is more about body language and the energy than the spoken word. The other tough guy case was a lion. He refused to take food nicely, and he sprayed anyone and everyone who walked around his cage. And if you understand sprayed, I'm not talking water. It took us time, but slowly I gained his trust, was able to feed him, and was never wet when I worked around his cage. I always spent a lot of time speaking to both the lion and the wolf out loud in a conversational tone. My body language and actions were calm, respectful, and even important, patient. With all that, I was accepted, and I hope trusted, as much as they were able to. As my children were growing up, we began to adopt pets from the shelters. During one of our visits to get a bunny, we were in an aisle with cages in the front and back of us, and we were choosing a bunny. Unbeknownst to my girls, there was a guinea pig in the rabbit cage behind me, and he was complaining up a storm. He kept going on and on about how much he hated this bunny and please, could you get him out? He kept saying over and over, please take me home, please take me home. When the person came to get the bunny out of the cage, I turned around and pointed at the guinea pig and said, who we soon would call Stanley, we'll take him too. He was so relieved. The girls were thrilled to be taking another pet home, and this was something they had come to expect from me, the unexpected. Stanley had a few concerns he shared with me, one being worried about being dropped. His past owner had dropped him a few times. I promised that we would do the best we could, but sadly, we dropped him once. We rushed over and apologized. He forgave us. It never happened again. But we love Stanley, and when we watched TV, and a really great, exciting, tense part of the story came, he would start screaming. If you've never heard a guinea pig, this is what they sound like when they're excited or anxious or something like that. Until the tension in the room passed, he really knew how to ruin the mood of a good movie. There was a lot of, Stanley, be quiet, from all three of us during those times, which of course, he never listened to. For years, we had a rescue horse, and he was one of the least chatty of all the animals I worked with. One day, he and I were working in the arena and had done some trail work when I heard, water. Okay, and I said, do you want water? At that point, I got a picture of the water trough. Well, off we went to get him a drink. No, thank you, but there was a happy horse and a lot more silence. He was a body language type talker. So, if you're not paying attention, you'd miss it. 2 years ago, I rescued an 11-year-old tabby cat named Tucker. He actually came to us with a terrible name called Timer. We could keep that one. Though he had always been owned by people, they never interacted with him. He had a brother that dominated him. I received a scared, painfully shy recluse that peed on my floor constantly. It was a tough 2 years for both of us, and a lot of mopping. Today, I have a cat that will not only sit by my side, he has also accepted us others that visit. We'll rub on our legs and arms, and if you have a cat, you understand rubbing on your legs and arms is a huge trust. Mm-hmm. It's a real big deal. And they're basically rubbing their scent on you, so you're mine, you're mine. That's what that means. Found out that being brushed was like a great high, and that I would not abandon him when I moved. How did this happen? I had to teach him how to talk and to learn how and what I was about, and much less what I was saying. Was it easy? No. Did it take time? Oh, lots and lots and lots of time. Was it worth it? Yes. Yes, it was worth it. And there was still lots of mopping. He had learned to trust people. He had to stand up for himself. And he learned to play. At 13 years old, learning to play is a really big deal. Also tough when your co-house cat is 7 months old. Was it worth it? Yes. For both of us. Is it ongoing? Absolutely. We also make sure to document all his firsts we can. We had to show him the laser light game. Everybody knows what we're talking about. Little toy, turn on. You have to give your driver's license to the cashier to prove you're old enough to buy a mouse with a laser. That was totally dumbfounded when I bought that at Target. I was like, excuse me?
Do you know why?
Yes, it's a legal thing in security and poke people's eye out and all that. I thought, okay, I hadn't thought of that. But showing him this, we had to bring the 7-month-old and watch him run around. And it took him months to go, ooh, I could do that. But just that trust and building that play, that fun. When you're 13, I mean, we're talking ancient years in cat time. He didn't understand, oh, I can just play. And now he plays. It was a really big step in our evolution of where he's come. I cannot speak for other animal psychics, just myself, as I imagine all our gifts are very personal to each of us. If I am asked what illness your animal has, all I can see is what they're able to tell me. My hips hurt, my tummy aches. When you hold me like that, it bothers me. I'm scared. And as we all have our own unique communication style, so do they. Learning to speak another language can take a few tries. But when you have a good bond with your pet, it is easier to pick up their language in that. So we all can. The rest is up to you and I to fill in the details. This is also where my lifetime of work with animals and the study of them comes in. Is it time to go to the vet? Does the bed, food, or their collar need to be changed? Do you need to walk more or less often? I have also been told, who are you? I don't know who you are. I don't want to talk to you. With a gentle approach, we then get to know each other. With the owner by my side, figuratively or physically, we can work on many issues together. Years ago, I was working with another pet psychic in Texas that was helping me with a runaway cat named Thomas. My children adored Thomas, and we were heartbroken when he left. But we couldn't figure out why. As so often is the case, when you are too close to a situation, the answer is right in front of your face. We had taken in 4 sick kittens to foster for the animal shelter, and he was sure we had just replaced him. As we were always getting new rescues, this was not out of the question for him to assume. But no, not this time. Barbara and I explained to him they were only here to get well and then would leave. The amazing thing was, Barbara was in Texas. I was here in California. So was Thomas. Having never been to San Jose, and she was describing to me a field where a bunch of buildings had been torn down. Did I know where she was talking about? Yeah. Yes, I did. But it was miles away, and Thomas was having a great time mousing. Once we had succeeded in reassuring him that he was loved, an absolutely permanent member of the family. Barbara said it would be 3 days for him to make the distance. Guess what? 3 days later, he showed up at the front door. He cried. He doesn't know how to knock yet. And we never had another issue with him fostering or new pets. He was deeply loved and now was assured of his place in the family. There was also a time when I had a pet reached out to me. I was in the store a few months back buying cat food when a gentleman and I struck up a conversation in the pet food aisle. He talked lovingly about his cat and how he slept on his chest every night. I walked a few aisles away when my guide literally dragged me back to his side. I explained to him about my gift and that his cat had an urgent message. Please go to the doctor. I literally must have said that 6 times to this man. Please go to the doctor. Oh, but I've just been. No, I'm being told, please go to the doctor now. This is what your cat is spending so much time on your chest, is checking your heart and making sure that you're okay through the night. The cat was sleeping on him, concerned about his heart. The man then stated that he had already had a heart attack. As we talked, I was told to also ask if he had a plan for who would take care of his cat if anything happened to him. He didn't. There was no plan. He kept saying, somebody will take care of it. Somebody will take care of it. Yet he was single with no children in a family. I stressed he needed to do that as I had seen firsthand what happened when there was no one to take the family pet.
Right.
After, as I was leaving the store, I found out from the cat that he was dying. And my guide confirmed. I hope he listened and made plans for his cat and got himself to the doctor. That was one of my most moving reads, because first of all, I'm in the middle of Walmart, and I found out that someone was imminently passing to the next. It was really tough, really tough. All readings are different, as each of us, as I'm sure we all have experienced. Let me tell you about an amazing and difficult read that helped me grow, ache, and feel the magic of things we all call life. Last December, my daughter came from Boston to spend Christmas with us and left behind her puppy and 2 cats. I had been keeping my eye on her puppy, as the people caring for him had not always been kind and patient as they should. One day, hearing from them when they went to check on the cats was heartbreaking. One of her cats, 9-month-old Jasmine, had caught her foot in a shelf and was rushed to the vets. They wanted to amputate. What did my daughter want them to do? As you can imagine, thousands of dollars besides the care of this baby. In I stepped to see what was going on from Jasmine's side. She was extremely hard to read, as she had already been sedated by then. For the first time, I was able to get a picture of her and read both the vet and Jasmine from the vet herself. Jasmine and my guides were clear. Do not amputate. She needed rest and wanted to go home. Over the next day, I kept my mind on Jasmine. We had all types of trials, with the caregivers giving too much medication to massaging the damaged limb. My daughter's distress was heartbreaking for me to be a part of. Next morning, she flew home, but I had had a dream that I'd shared with no one. Late that night, my phone rang. Now remember, my daughter's in Boston, so it's a 3-hour difference. When the phone rings after 10 or 11, you go, oh. So I pick up quickly. The other cat, Ren, was calling out loudly and woke my daughter up. Jasmine was in trouble. Breathing was shallow, and Jasmine was not responding, and the nerve tests I taught my daughter were not working. I walked her through CPR, and we worked on Jasmine. Minutes later, CPR was stopped. Sorry. And my daughter held her baby for the last time. As we watched Jasmine leave, my dream from that morning was fulfilled. I had been that Jasmine would pass on. I had seen it. Next, even though our hearts were broken, I shared with my daughter Jasmine's release from pain, the deep love she had for being rescued, and all the love she had felt being with my daughter. As she cried, I watched my first passing with awe and magical circle of light released as Jasmine left this world. We will see her again. Good night, our sweet girl. Jasmine stayed with my daughter in spirit for the next week, helping her say goodbye. How I know this is that Ren, her other cat, spoke to her daily, and most nights, so that nobody got any sleep. Told us. When my daughter and Jasmine were ready, they said their "I'll see you laters," and Jasmine moved on. How lucky was I to be there to help with the conversation and witness such an amazing moment. There's so much I have learned and experienced during every reading that leaves me in awe of what will be next. No one experience is the same, as we and our pets are all vastly different. Animals have vast insight into our world, and us, from being able to predict earthquakes and telling us when we are sick. I challenge you to read up or just go on YouTube and see all the amazing animal stories and how they have saved families from fire, gas, and even strokes and cancer. My favorite to date is the one about a pot-bellied pig that had a doggy door to come and go and went out one day to literally stop traffic. The little pig went to get help for his owner that day, and as he tried, he kept coming back to see if she was all right. See, she was already on the floor. When everyone just drove around him, and he went down to the neighbor's house. Of course, everyone in the neighborhood knew about this pig. So when he found a person, he insisted that he follow him. In the video, you can see him go to the guy and come back. And the guy's not following, so he goes back to the guy and comes back. And he does this about this 3 times. The guy says, okay, I think I'm supposed to go with him. There on the living room floor was his owner still. She had had a seizure, and they called the paramedics. The doctor said that if the little pig had not gotten help, she could have died. There's also a story of a woman whose dog kept bumping into her breast over and over for weeks. She finally went into the doctors, and they found cancer. It was in the early stages, and so was very treatable. With every new experience, I learned so much, and I feel my connection, love, and total awe with animals deepen. The lessons we are all here to learn and share are vast and sometimes challenging. If there is one thing I have learned this past year is to trust. Trust myself, trust my support team, my guides, and yes, that there is a bigger plan that I could ever imagine. I hope I've enlightened you today, and you can go and learn to talk with your furry companions, or at the very least, be better listeners to the world around you.
Thank you.
And before I let you go, and yes, we'll go to questions, this stunning hairdo I now carry is Regina's. So she has helped me look a little more professional with my lazy hair ways. But thank you. I love it. Absolutely love it. Do you want me to wrap up or offer questions?
I think you had, I'm sure there's people here.
We've been very quiet.
Yeah, well, I know, and I try not to cry through that part, but I don't get through it very often. As you can imagine, when your own child is suffering and then having to watch her child suffer, it was magical and difficult because I had to keep it together and be calm for her. And when you wake up and you have had a dream, and you're like, uh-oh, I'm not telling her that. First of all, she was on a plane, so that saved me. But, you know, that hope, oh, I hope I'm wrong. But she wasn't meant to be with us, and we hope we'll see her in another form. That's usually how things go. But animals are very different, as complicated as people. Very much so. Yes, ma'am.
How often might an animal that was a part of your life follow you into another life and being that near you? Does that happen a lot?
As far as I know, it does. I mean, you probably be more skilled in the dimensions than I am, but it's really, everything I've read and everything I've seen is that this is really common. I am really, really fortunate to have my own animal guides, and they're two of my past pets that I felt I needed to apologize, that I needed to, because their end wasn't what I would have liked it to have been. I really feel like I failed them, and when I started this journey of going public, you know, with all my gifts, I got that calm reassurance of, you're okay, we're okay, it's a good thing, it's a positive thing. So how can we possibly not imagine that this goes on throughout? I'm going to have an entire menagerie by the time I die. Yes, sir.
We had a cat by the name of Ali Khan that used to sleep on the bed with us. He loved to put his head in my hand while I was asleep. He's been gone many years. Occasionally I'll get a furry hand in my hand, a head in my hand at night. 2 weeks ago he came back.
Yeah, yeah. They visit us when they need it, when we need it. I had a lot of guilt about our shepherd. I was in a really dark black place when he left us, and I blame myself for a lot because I wasn't in a place to do what I thought he should have deserved. I had a head-on car accident in 1996, and we adopted him a few years later, and I had acquired a lung infection due to the medications and rest and all that type of stuff. And with his will, and people who have pets will understand this, he literally willed me back to breathing and willed me, because he's like, I need to go for a walk. No, we need to go for a walk. We need to go for a walk now. And so it got me out, it got me moving. We eventually bike ride. And then we eventually went all the way to agility. I don't know if anybody knows what agility is. It's a course, and we competed. That was possible because he knew I needed that push. I needed that assistance, and I really felt like, 10 years later when he needed me, I wasn't there, and he came back, and you get that love that you give out and what you need at that point. Yes?
Did your daughter travel by plane with her pets?
No. She left him in Boston because she has 3. She has a therapy puppy who's in training, so traveling with 3 animals and 1 human was really tough.
Okay, so they were in Boston.
They were in Boston when
And
she
the
was
cat
here in
got-
California.
And the cat got injured in Boston?
Yes, at home. They were at her apartment at home. Puppy was with the other people because he's a puppy and he needed a lot of care. Cats, they can sleep all day and they're just fine. So they would check on him every day or 2.
And did the cats in Boston send you messages telepathically?
Absolutely, absolutely. This is the fun of the woman who truly mentored me and said, hey, I'm retired. You need to take over. And she's in Texas, and so we did everything via phones and that type of stuff. It's really magical. I mean, I have never been a part of an actual passing, a death immediately happening. And I tried to explain this to a girlfriend who lost her sister a year ago. And sadly, her sister showed up in the middle of a lunch. And I was like, and she'd been waiting a year to talk to her. And so I was like, okay, I'm so sorry. But your sister wants to talk to you, and if she doesn't talk to you, she's gonna drive me crazy. You know, and I don't really do people, but so far 2 dead people seem to think I'm a really good vehicle. But it was because I knew the family member they wanted to talk to.
And they knew you could.
Yes, yes, and I didn't know.
There's more to that, because you
Yeah.
have a bright light.
Yeah.
And so anybody who's trying to get a hold of you, as your light gets brighter, more people are gonna be coming and seeing
Oh,
you.
great.
It's kinda like you being a wonderful
It's gonna be
lighthouse.
like, what is that phone system, the call line where everybody.
switchboard.
And everybody's on the
switchboard,
party line, there we go, the party line, yeah, some days. So, yeah, when I was first really going public, a coworker's mother was yelling at me while I was driving home. You gotta talk to him, you gotta talk to him. Well, I'm not talking to somebody at work, what are you talking to? And then my daughters came up, well, just tell him, I bet his mother, and I got, no. I would never say that. And so I got the courage up and talked to him 4 days later, and he said, oh, we're all intuitive in the family, that's why she made you talk to me, so you get brave and scared. I mean, there's a plan for us. And I really learned that, somebody else has got a plan that's better than mine, or understands what's better than mine. And what we've gotten since, with the help of some people that I take classes just like here and meeting everybody, Jasmine is returning to us, and that's why we said we'll see you later, because we know that she's going to come back. And my daughter's guess and I is a horse, because we really think her personality would be great as a horse. But when she first adopted Jasmine came, my daughter's a therapist, and her friend is also a therapist, and this was a client's animal who ended up being hospitalized for schizophrenia. So when she first got Jasmine, she's like, every time I come home, she's on the counter. No counters, that's gross, no counters. So she yelled, get off the counter. So she's calling me, why? Oh, you need to talk to Jasmine. Get her off the counter. And so I'm bringing Jasmine from California to Boston, because it was great practice too, all that kind of stuff. And I said, she thinks you're crazy. And I went, wait a minute, didn't you get her from a woman who was hospitalized for schizophrenia? She thinks you have it too. Because every time she walks in, she yells at her. So she's like, that's why she ignores you. She's like, they just not crazy. She accepts that. She's just like, she's just crazy. And I said, stop yelling. And then everything got better. When she backed out and changed the way she behaved with her, the cat went, oh, maybe she's not so crazy today. And so that relationship, so she was really looking forward to having her in her practice and all that kind of stuff. So that bond, and missing that moment, and she's like, she was supposed to be in my practice. She was supposed to be the greeter cat, because she has that personality for going up and being really gentle with clients and things like that. But now somebody else has a different plan for this kid, and that kind of stuff. So, but could you imagine if we'd have put her through the trauma of an amputation and the financial burden that would have caused? And so, very lucky. I feel very lucky to have been gotten clear. Nope, don't do that. That's absolutely not necessary. So, when passing 2 days later. Do you have a question?
Well, it wasn't really a question, just a comment. I think I've experienced the communication, because when my previous family cat had been put down, I was planning on not looking for animals for quite a long time, or if at all,
Right.
just because I'm busy and I'm gone a lot. And then I thought to myself, but if I do get a cat, it's going to have a brother or sister. We're going to adopt two together,
Right.
so that they're not lonely when I'm, when I do my traveling and I do whatever. I'm at work a lot. And I woke up 3 days after my birthday, so it was about a year, maybe a year and a half after we had to put the other cat down. And I just woke up that morning and I said, I'm looking for cats today, and it's going to be a black cat. And I turned on the internet and I was looking at cats for adoption.
Right.
And my magic cat, that I call him, his name is Magic, I saw him and I just immediately, my heart went,
Yeah.
and I went,
That's
that's
it.
my cat.
Yeah.
And then I started reading more. We would love it if you could adopt him with his brother.
There you
know.
It's like there.
So it was just like, wow, okay, so there's two of them. So I went to every adoption fair that weekend, and finally went to this one lady and I said, look, they send the adoption fairs all the time. Where are these cats? She said, was the ad from a lady that was fostering? And I said, yes. She goes, you can contact the foster directly.
Oh, good.
So I contacted her and she said, well, they're very skittish. They've been to many fairs. They're afraid of all the children. They don't want to get in cages. They don't want to do anything. Why don't you come over here? They'll run and hide underneath the bed. But if they come out to you, then they're your cats. And I said, no, they're my cats. You're bringing them over to my house now. So she did. And for the first year and a half, really, my communication was a lot of reading up of how do you communicate with a cat.
Right.
Because they were so skittish and so afraid, and they would sit on their cat tree and they'd look at me. And so I learned that when you blink very, very slowly, it's telling them that you're not a threat to them. So it started off with me just sitting across the room and blinking at them, and then blinking back at me.
Oh, nice.
And then now they come running up to people to let them get petted. They're still skittish.
Right.
And the one that I saw first is definitely jealous of the brother and stay away from my mom. So we have to work that through a lot. But I really think that they were communicating they wanted to come home to me. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. I really agree. Yes, sir.
I wanted to ask you about your experience with the wolf and also just wild animals. What kinds of sense you got from them, and also sort of the state of the planet right now, and if you've had any communications?
I haven't gone with the whole planet. I'm so overwhelmed with just the dog walking down the street some days. I'm in the middle of taking ASL. I'm redoing my language, and the teacher's dog walks by, and I'm learning to filter. It's like, okay, too much talking, people. So I'm afraid of the planet. So I will get there. I will get there. But I have just come off of 8 years working in another wildlife sanctuary. It was heavily frowned upon to take this kind of gift there, so I kind of left it at home. And you can do that, but they're very instinctual. They're very much different than your dog and cat at home. We had animals that were kept in homes, and depending on what they were, for example, one of the Papuan monkeys, which is the cousin of a capuchin, so really tiny. So this woman had literally raised her from an infant in her home, diapers, the whole thing. But she got so aggressive, she loved pulling hair. She loved pulling hair. So if you had a ponytail especially, you were in trouble. If she could reach outside of the cage, and they had really long arms. So they're not good pets. People think they're great pets. They're horrible pets. All exotics are. But we had a hybrid cat, so house cat mixed with a jungle cat, and he was really good. He had a decent vocabulary and understood. He had a limited pets thing. Pet me, pet me, pet me. Okay, I'm done. And that kind of stuff. So exotics are. I worked with tigers this last couple of years. They're my passion. I have a big orange yellow cat. I mean, it's kind of just bigger ones. They're very much about what in the moment is good for them. So they don't have the concept of petting and, let's curl up together and that kind of stuff. They still have those behaviors, but, they lay in your hand and your hand would probably break. And that kind of stuff. So it's a different experience completely. Chimpanzees, don't even get me started on chimpanzees, because the sanctuary I worked at was a rescue for medical research animals. Oh. Yeah, so we had a whole bunch of hyenas that came from that experience, and they were at the end of their life from that. But our chimpanzees were 20 years from infancy, still stolen out of the wild, etc., and bred. So they spent their first 20 years in a cage, just bigger than this space, and having shots all the time. They are now currently in families and live outdoors and that kind of stuff. But that took years and years to do. But chimpanzees you respect at a great distance. So it's just a different mindset, and it's a total. You can take the wild, add the wildlife, but they're a totally different mindset than our dogs and cats that have had thousands of years of breeding and people and etc. What a lot of people don't understand, my little animal high horse educational curve, is dogs we domesticated. They really love being with us, and that thing. A wolf dog, bad news, because a wolf wants to run and be free, and the dog wants to be with you. So he's totally confused. So don't even get me started on lighters. Okay, but a cat, they domesticated themselves. We started milling grain, we had all the rats and the mice, and they went, hey, cool, there's a lot of food around here. Oh, and yeah, they'll feed me and pet me. So cats make that choice, and a lot of us have had cats just walk away. They're like, bye, I'm done, see you later. Yes?
Yeah, do you know, I know you're new here in the area, do you know about Wildlife Associates?
No, I don't.
They're a sanctuary wildlife place that has injured animals, and I think they'd be interested to know about you. They're in Half Moon Bay, and there's a documentary that was done out of a labor of love called Teach Me to Be Wild. And what they do is bring in to these broken animals that have been ostracized or not able, you know, eagles that can't fly, sloths, all kinds of different animals. And they bring these children in, these kids in that are from broken families and pretty broken inside. And they have a camp with them, and they teach them, they introduce them to these broken animals, and the kids connect and become really healed. So it's called Wildlife Associates, and I would encourage you to look for them online.
Absolutely, absolutely will. It's up to Dottie on time frame. One more? Go ahead.
Is there a way to get my cat not to bring me presents with no presents?
Stop eating them. Oh no, that's not you, right?
No, but
It's a love gesture, you know that.
I know it is, but I
It's
don't
like-
love it.
Yeah, gross. I gave up what is it? Eating raw meat.
Yeah. Well, I have hills 10 houses away and a big park with a lot of land, so there's plenty for him to find, and he's giving me these presents, and I try and tell him that I don't want any more presents. I don't like your presents. I love you, but I don't want your presents. But
What do you do with them when he brings them in?
throw them in the garbage.
Okay, that'll be a fun one. I'll have to think on that, because yeah, I've seen it done, and I've had only one animal that did that also.
And just recently, I have a little dog, and he left one in the lawn that was decapitated, and my dog wants to lay in it, you know, and rub his neck.
Right.
I don't want my dog doing that.
Ew.
Yeah.
Yes, ours would leave it, and I'd run over it with the mower before I saw it, and I was like, oh, well, there's the grass, a little meat, and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a really tough behavior it's the same thing with spraying.
Yeah,
When
he's
cats-
an outdoor cat
when
now
cats
because of that.
spray,
I couldn't get him to
It's
stop.
almost impossible. Everything I've seen and worked with, it's almost impossible to get, because it becomes a habit and they really like it. It's like a child who sucks his thumb. Well, I don't care what you put on the thumb. It's really hard to break that comfort, that gesture, and you're going to have that same struggle with getting this kitty to stop
Yeah, and see, he does
donating
use a
to
sprayer,
you.
and so I finally had to kick him out of the house because
Right.
I was tired of getting that stuff sprayed
Right.
all over my.
And
my
fixing them
furniture.
doesn't always.
No,
once
'cause I
that
fixed him
habit.
I fixed him as early as I could.
Yeah, but once that
But,
habit is
yeah.
instilled, I've seen it before, and it's almost impossible.
So now he's an outdoor cat, but I still get these presents.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
You can collect them, make Thanksgiving.
I don't know what he says to me. He talks a lot too. He meows, and I just mimic his meows, and we just go back and forth, back and forth, back and
Yeah.
forth, back and forth for.
He loves that.
Oh,
He
good.
loves that. He thinks you're hilarious. So. He's like, look, she talks just like, I have no idea what she's saying, but that's really cool. Yeah, my daughter used to do that to our Thomas. Thomas was a talker, and she has videotapes of them going, and? Oh, really? I didn't know, and? And he would talk away, oh my God, and what else happened? You know, they go at this for hours, and she'd videotape him because orange male tabbies, per the vet, said, they tend to be very chatty and very communicative out loud.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
they're really smart.
I don't talk English back to him. I just use the meowing back. I
You
just
can say
mimic
whatever
it.
you
Yeah,
want, he's
yeah.
still going to talk.
Yeah.
Just keep saying, and off it goes. One in the back.
Okay.
Just for your purposes and anybody else's animal that messes in the house, there's an amazing product called Fission, Fission. You can get it on Chewy.com. It's very inexpensive. It comes like a tablet. It's like an Alka-Seltzer tablet. Is how it reacts. You add it to water, and it really, really works well to get the smell and stains out. It's
Okay.
phenomenal. So that will help you, really help you. It's amazing. It's
Thank
really
you.
good.
Is it quick?
Yes.
Yes.
I had a dog that just liked to take care of things.
Mhm.
And we took her to the vet, and there was a cage full of kitties, the new kitties that had just been born.
Oh.
And she